Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of the Articulate Fly, and we're back with another East Tennessee fishing report with Ellis Ward. How you doing, Ellis?
Doing all right, Marv. How are you?
I'm just trying to stay out of trouble, and kind of funny. We had to move things around a little bit because you were out at a muskie tournament last weekend.
Yeah, we fished the North Fork Kentucky River, and this is the Kentucky River Musky Classic. And man, the conditions were tough just honestly for the 2 days. It had dumped Thursday night, and so Friday things were still coming up, and Saturday might have been all right. There were some impoundments that were still kind of draining water out, so it was tough. But with a fishery like that is really so big, and not, the river itself is pretty big, but just the options. I was fishing with a couple guys that sort of knew the area but hadn't fished the river, and so we actually fished just somewhere that was closest to me since I was just coming up that morning. And it was tough sledding on the main river that day. Next day we had a jet boat. We were going up. We checked below a spill dam. There's a smarter word for that. And then found some creeks and went up 3-4 miles into one, and we didn't get anything that day. Turns out someone the day before had gotten one twice the distance up. And we saw a guy trapping beavers who informed us that creek was torn up with muskie. So, even when you have a blown out river, you're still fine. And you can go up this creek like 12 miles in a jet boat. And that's just one of many different sections. And it's pretty cool to have halfway between me and where my family is in Cincinnati, and another big chunk of water that I think has a lot of potential. And then the guy who organized it, Dave Ruff from the Wolf Rod Company, is just such a good dude. His rods are awesome. I've been fishing the 12 weight for a few years now. So just a lot of good stuff that came together. And I think I mentioned this to you before we kicked off, but Thursday, when the water was in great shape before the timely deluge, is that word right? Before the mini flood, some team that was there scouting went 6 for 15, and just I'll pull up Matt Riley calling those NCAA stats, but to give you an indication of sort of what that the potential of that fisher is. So yeah, I'm excited for next year and excited to poke around in between now and then.
Yeah, and coming a little bit back closer to home, you're west of me, so you're getting it now, but there's a pretty nasty front moving through, and we're going to see about a 20-degree drop in temperatures here in about the next 24 hours and some rain. But, I think that, if things in East Tennessee are anything like they are here in kind of the Carolinas, it's pretty clear that spring is like pretty much here.
Yeah, I think last time we talked, the buds on the little magnolia out back were gone. My tulips are like, this is how I know I'm old. I was actually really excited to see that the tulips were, you can almost see flower coming out of them. But that, relative to fishing, you start seeing, and we're seeing this now, the lake temperatures are warming up. The lake is that winter drop where they take it down 30 feet for flood control and a couple other things. That starts to go back up. And so the mouth of the river starts to get farther and farther up, and the lake itself is rising, and that just changes where the bait fish are, where the predators are. And then as it warms up and there's sort of an inflection point where shad are less comfortable in the warming lake and more comfortable near the mouth of the rivers with the cooler water, things start to get funky down there. And that dynamic can kind of be found throughout the lake all year. But now and for the next month or two, you have that coinciding with, we'll just say it's March now. So in a month from now, we're going to have, pending weather. Some of the cat is starting to go on the Watauga, and the sulfurs will be quickly following on both rivers. And yeah, it's very much it's cool to come out at 7 a.m. and have it be 60, even though it's going to be 25 tomorrow.
Yeah, that that'll be a little bit of a reset. And with the warmer temperatures, how much longer do you think you have before the muskie in your neck of the woods start to spawn and you need to leave them alone?
Yeah, I was just out today, and up in the headwaters, the temperature variance isn't as great as some other freestones. Like low 40s, mid 40s is kind of a winter norm. It just doesn't get as frosty here as it does on the New or the James. So it's 49 now, and I don't really anticipate that getting up to the low to mid 50s. I got to think daylight has a little bit to do with their internal clock. So it's more or less, I close with a couple folks that live on the river and am up there fishing on my own a good deal. And when it starts to get into the low 50s, it's time to pull the plug. But my last muskie trip booked is March 8th, and I anticipate that'll be right. That's a good date for the last trip.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And, kind of shifting gears a little bit, Brenner shot us a smallmouth question, and he wanted to get your thoughts on, targeting early season smallies. And is it better to kind of start out with baitfish or start out fishing crayfish patterns?
Sure. So you can cut this question apart in 1,000 different ways. Oddly enough, my inclination in answering is going to be who's fishing. What rod are you fishing? What line are you fishing? What type of water are you fishing? And some example of that would be you're fishing skinnier water, some kind of jiggy clouser. Sure, that's a bait fish. You got crawfish imitations that are jiggy as well, fishing that on a floating line, working it through pockets. In a situation where you have some more bouldery, cobbly, crawdaddy structure, and go in there and pop some rocks over, and the temperature is above 50, 53, 54. That's kind of a crawdad active temperature. I'd honestly not wed yourself to a fly too much. I think that going into the TVA reservoir system, for example, when you have shad moving in, you start to look at, like, are you fishing a peanut envy, and that looks kind of like a bait fish, and smallmouth are crushing it, but it's also kind of jiggy and has rubber legs, and it's a crawdad? Yeah, the answer is yes. So it's really trying whatever whatever you have in your arsenal. And sure, if there's shad getting blown apart, throw some baitfish patterns. And I've absolutely seen smallmouth, striper, brown trout eating shad and refusing anything that even the clousers that are too big or too densely tied, they're not eating them because they're eating 2-inch shad, 1.5-inch shad. These things are tiny. So it's really what is your river structure, what type of food is around, and that's what you're going for. If you're wade fishing a lot of these creeks and you want to go, natural, go crawfish. My personal preference is if I can find out that they're actually going to swim through a 7-inch changer, I'd like to find that out at the beginning of the day. And if they're not, I can pretty quickly check it off and move on to some more reasonable presentations. But I do kind of like to approach it in that order.
Says the streamer junkie, right?
Yeah, it's just too fun.
Dude, I'm with you. And folks, we love questions at the Articulate Fly. You can email them to us or DM us on social media, whatever is easiest for you. And if we use your question, I will send you some Articulate Fly swag. And we're drawing for some cool stuff from Ellis at the end of the season. And Ellis, before I let you go and drain all the rain out of your boat, and hunker down for the storm, we want to let folks know, if you've got any kind of, bucktail releases coming up soon, or if you got any, just to let folks know kind of how to get on your guide calendar for, smallmouth trout, musky, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. So bucktail will be there. There's some available now, but I got some more colors, a wide array of naturals and some different, just like 4 shades of gray. And all of that's on elliswardflies.com. There's some information on booking, and that's run your own website. It's a moving target. So if you ever have questions, about booking or just about what a trip looks like or fishing, whatever, you want to book a trip, best way to do that is my cell phone at 513-543-0019.
There you go. And, don't forget, folks, that, in our Patreon community, the Articulate Fly, you got a couple options to support the show and to support Ellis. At one tier, there's a 10% discount on bucktail, but there's another tier, which is particularly apropos for this time of year, where you get $100 off guide credit every year. So you might want to check that out. It's in the show notes. And, we're in this great time of year, get your gear ready, get ready to get out there. And if it's warm enough, get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Ellis.
Appreciate it, Marv.